Hey TaMorgans, it's Sis, come back to another video, and today's video is going to be super exciting. I am starting a Talisa Teaches type of segment on my channel. This segment is just going to be where I just show you guys each step of the makeup process. So eyebrows, foundation, setting powder, concealer, contour, highlight, just every segment of the makeup process, just going in depth and just showing you guys how I do it and give you some tips and tricks. So today we're going to start with eyeshadow. I get a lot of questions about eyeshadow, how to make it pigmented, how to make it last, blase. If you're interested in seeing how I make my eyeshadow stay on and how I get it very pigmented, then just keep on watching.
Stepping on me yard to my enter, them be 2 by 2.
So today I am using the newer camera with the newer lens. So you know this lens makes noise, so I'm so sorry if that's annoying to you. I'll have some music playing in the background so you don't hear it as much, but let's go ahead and get started. Now, depending on the type of look I'm going to do, then I will decide whether I want to use an eyeshadow primer, a concealer, or whatever. So the main primers that I use for eyeshadow is either a regular concealer, so this JCat one is one of my favorites right now, or I will use this NYX concealer. It's just in this little pot right here, and this is the shade Tan, or I will use my Makeup Revolution Cut Crease Canvas, which you guys have seen me use multiple times and I love it so much. But lately I've been feeling a little bit toned down, so I'm going to go in with the JCat concealer. This is in Soft Tan, so I'm just going to apply it directly on my lid, about that much. This is going to help give you a nice flawless blank canvas, especially on darker skin. Sometimes it's hard for shadows to really show up on our skin. So going in with a concealer or eyeshadow that is lighter, it will help the pigmentation show up better, and also sometimes putting down a base will help the eyeshadow stay on longer. Some people like to go in with a concealer and then just go straight into eyeshadow. I've never been that type of person. I've always been the type of person who has to set down any type of base that I put on my eyes. So I like to go in with a setting powder, and I've been using this Fenty Beauty little mini setting powder right here, and this is in the shade Cashew. So I'm just going to take a little bit of it and I tap off. I just like to look up to make sure there's no creases on my lid, and I just go in and I just pat it in and I just set it. Okay, so now that our eyes are set, I'm going to tell you guys my favorite eyeshadows. So hands down, my favorite eyeshadows are the Morphe eyeshadows. The reason that I love Morphe is because they have these really big palettes, and usually the palettes have a bunch of different shades. You can make a bunch of different looks with it. This is one of my favorite palettes from them. This is the 35M. What you'll find in shadows most of the time from my experience is that the mattes are usually okay, and then the shimmers are just trash. What I found with Morphe shadows is that the mattes and the shimmers are on the same level. They're both amazing. If I'm traveling or something and I just want to take one palette, most of the time I'll just take a Morphe palette. So you can get you any eyeshadow that you want, but to start off with, I feel like Morphe is just a better, more cost-efficient way to go because their palettes are usually no more than about $30. Okay, so I'm going to go with the Jaclyn Hill palette and the Morphe 35M palette because I want to show you guys color and pigmentation. So the first step of eyeshadow is that you want to start out with a transition color. A transition color is just going to be a color that's usually close to your skin tone, something that will just nicely blend into your skin, just to make sure that other shadows blend nicely as well. I'm going to find me a shade in the Jaclyn Hill palette that's very similar to my skin tone, and I believe it's going to be this shade right here in the middle. When you're using a transition shade, you want to use a blender brush. My favorite brush to use to blend out a transition shade is the Morphe M535, and this is how it looks right here. So as you can tell, it's very fluffy. You can tell that it's really going to blend out really nicely. You don't want to use a super dense brush. You don't want to use one like this because it's just not going to blend out the shadows how you want it to be. This brush I think is maybe like $6 or $8. You can find a cheaper one. This is one that's very similar, and this one's from Wet n Wild. It's only $1. So something like this would also work just fine. So I'm just going to go into the shade. I just like to pat. You can even rub into it depending on how much pigmentation you want, but patting or rubbing will do you fine. Make sure that you're always tapping off the excess. Always. I'm going to place this shadow right in my crease. And your crease is basically where your eye socket kind of creases at, right here. I'm gonna place it right in here. I'm gonna bring it all the way up towards my nose, all the way through here, the arch, and all the way out. So I'm just gonna do this. So I like to start preferably on the out. I'm just gonna go back and forth, sweeping motions, back and forth. And the reason that I bring it over and down is because since you put down a lighter concealer, you don't want nobody to see that concealer. You're not supposed to really show that concealer. That concealer is just to help with pigmentation. So going out kind of blends out where the concealer stopped at, so it's not hard. Alright, so that's blended out. So as you can tell, it didn't add a lot of color, but it just added a great transition to my eyes. Now, second step, you can either choose a second transition shade or you can use your outer V shade. So if you choose a transition shade, it's only going to be a shade that's similar to whatever look that you're going for. So we have not figured out what type of look we're going for, so let's figure out what we're going for. I'm thinking orange. If I want to choose a second transition shade, it needs to be something kind of orange or yellow, something similar to my primary color. So I'm going to take this shade right here out of the Jaclyn Hill palette. I'm taking it because it has a little bit of orange tones in it. It's not going to be too pigmented, it's not too dark, so it'll probably be perfect for me. Now with this, you can use the same brush that you use to apply your transition color, or you can use one a tad bit smaller. I'm going to take the Morphe M505, and if you compare the two, you can just tell that the M505, this one is just a little less dense and is a little bit more pointed. A brush like this is just going to help you apply the shadow exactly where you want it to be. So I'm just going to pick up the shadow just like I did the other one. So you can tap, 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 or you can swirl. Dust off. And I'm just going to place it a little bit lower than I placed the initial eyeshadow. So probably right here, right in there. And we're just going to do the same motion back and forth. Next, I'm gonna go in with my outer V shade. So I like to use a pointed type of brush to apply that. So I'm going to take this brush right here, and it's very pointed. It's really called a pencil brush, and this brush is mostly used just to pack on eyeshadow. Now this may not be perfect for beginners, but if you're someone who wants to try out something new, then I would recommend you using this. But I'm also going to show you guys a way you can use this technique without using a brush this dense. So another brush that you can use is one like this. It's very pencil-like, but it's just a little bit more fluffy. So that's going to help you with blending. So I'm going to take the Morphe 35M palette, and I'm going to take this orange shade right here. I'm going to first use this brush to show you guys. So this is going to be the harder way of doing this. Start right here, right where you will apply like eyeliner. I'm just going to tap it. Now when you're doing this packing on, you don't have to tap out the excess, but it depends on you. And what I have noticed is it's easier to do eyeshadow when you have a small mirror versus then using a big mirror. And make sure that you're holding the mirror down because you can see better. Now we need to go in and we need to blend this out, because if you can't tell, it's very harsh. I like to use this Morphe 330 brush. I like to use this brush to apply my crease sometimes, or I like to blend it out with it. So first, just going with it without any product on it. I like to start right here by where you see that little rounded area and just blend that out, because you do not want it to look that harsh. So just go back and forth just like you applied the transition shade, just going back and forth until you see that it's blending. I ain't gonna even hold you. Sometimes it takes a while to blend out shadows, so you just have to be a trooper and just keep blending until it looks good. What I also like to do is sometimes pick up some of the shadow itself and just pack on, because sometimes blending out will blend out the shadow. So you go back in and place the shadow just how you placed it initially while also blending. Now the other way that you can do this is by using this brush. So I'm just going to dab into the shadow, and you're going to start on your outer. And I like to drag it outside, not inside, so I'm dragging it down. My opinion, this method using the blender brush to apply it makes it more seamless, but sometimes you get more pigmentation from using that pencil brush. So like I said, it just depends on you as a person, what you like. So as you can see, that it already looks blended like this side is. So going in with this blending brush will already have it blended, versus going with that pencil brush, you have to blend it after. Now, this is all up to you. If you don't want to cut out your lid and you want to go straight into the eyeshadow, you can, but if you want it to be very pigmented, cutting out your lid just helps better. So I'm going to go into my Makeup Revolution Cut Crease Canvas. I'm going to take a little bit of this and put it on the back of my hand. And for this step, you want to use a very flat type of brush. You can use one that you would use to basically clean up your brows. So this brush is dirty. I'm just going to use the other side of it. So I'm just going to pick up the product. The best thing to do is to just apply the product in the middle of your eye, like so, and look up. And as you can tell, you can see where it touched it. See where it touched it? So then I know, do not go past that area. So what I like to do, I just like to go in there, just pat, 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 pat. And I'm just making sure that I'm not going no further than that line showed up. Then I like to go over just a little. We're not going to set this down because we want our eyeshadow to be very pigmented, and we also want it to stick onto our lid. So what I have learned is that taking a flat brush like this is a cheaper one, just a flat brush, just like that. Taking some type of spray, it could be water, it could be Fix Plus, it could be setting spray. Spray your brush, both sides, just like that. Find your shade. I'm gonna take this purple shade, or it's kind of like a pinkish, whatever shade. And what I like to do is just like to run my brush through it. Now, like I said, you can do this without, you know, wetting your brush, but just wetting your brush just helps with the pigmentation and also makes the shadows kind of foily. So I'm just going to place this everywhere where I have the concealer down. So just go in. It kind of looks like there's just a indentation of where the crease shade and the eyeshadow shade stop. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to close that off. Personally, I like to go in with a darker shade now. I'm just going to place it just in this little triangle right there. And I'm just going to place that right in here. You want to kind of overlap over just on the very edge where the shadow stopped at. So now that our eyeshadow is done, I like to go on with eyeliner and lashes. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that next. So for eyeliner, I like to use tape. So I'm just going to apply the tape. I'm just going to make my line and I'm going to stop right there. So just make your line, fill it in, and you can stop pretty much wherever you want, honestly. Next, I like to use that Sassi glue. I like to put it on the lashes, let it dry for probably 3 minutes, and then apply. Go in with my tweezers and lay down the edges. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my face, and then I'm going to come back to you guys and we're going to finish up the eyes. With the under eye, you want to make sure that you're using a shade that is darker. I don't know why, but darker shades just look better. I think because it can tie into your outer corner. So make sure that's a dark shade. So I'm trying to think if I want to use this really dark purple down here, this turquoise shade right here. So I don't know. Let's go with the turquoise shade right here. So I'm just going to take this brush right here. It's from Wet n Wild and it's just this little like smudger brush. Go under and just kind of apply just like that, and I keep applying until I have enough pigmentation. Now usually what I like to do is I like to take the shade that I use for my highlight and I like to use that to hit my inner corner and to hit my brow bone. Adding those just makes, when you turn your face, it just looks really, really pretty. So I'm just going to take the same highlighter that I use for my face, which is the Wet n Wild Precious Petals highlighter. And I like to use this little brush right here because it's rounded and this is going to get right into the cuts and crevices. And then you take it, you hit right under your brow arch. Shout out to TaMorgans, y'all know when I hit my brow bone, I hit it. Because I like to look to the side and it be like bam, bam, bam. So that's just my preferences. You do what you like. That's just what I just like to go to the side and be like, yeah, I did. It's really important to go in with bottom lash mascara. Like I said, it just ties in the look. You don't have to, but me personally, it just ties in the look. So go in with a little bit of bottom lash mascara. I'm gonna come back to you guys after I put on my lip, and then we can see how the full look looks. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video of me showing you guys how I do my eyeshadow. This is just my techniques, my methods, the things I use, what works for me. This may not work for everybody, but hopefully it works for some of y'all and a good bit of y'all, because I do want to be helping you guys out when y'all ask me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you don't forget to subscribe, become a TaMorgan, join the gang, and I will see you guys in my next video. Peace.
Show now. Oh yeah.